It was just 5 short months ago when I first met with commercial photographer and filmmaker George Barnes about the issue of geoengineering and its potentially grave impact on millions of people all over this planet. Since that time, George's landmark documentary film Look Up and award-winning app Skyder Alert have served as integral tools in spreading the awareness of geoengineering, getting us one step closer to halting this large-scale program. In this, our second talk, we discuss some of the newer features of geoengineering, including night spraying and voided clouds, as well as some of the extreme weather that can be traced directly back to heavy spraying just prior to the weather event. With these all too obvious features, the reality of geo or climate engineering is growing ever more present in our daily lives. But what can we do about it? Listen in as we discuss some action steps that each and every one of us can take right now. Well, George, it's great to have you back on Conscious Inquiry Radio. We met back in February in Los Angeles. I can't believe it's been, 5 months now?
Time flies.
It sure does. At the Conscious Life Expo, lots of activity going on there, and kudos to you while there. I believe you picked up another award for your great documentary Look Up. So welcome back. When we met, we were sitting down with Dane Wigington as well as Dr. Doug Levine about the dynamics and the dangers of climate engineering. And, I was thinking about it. The gravity of this issue, George, is increasing, it seems, by the day. And the need to do something is ever more urgent. So I thought we'd discuss today primarily action steps, things that people can do to bring more attention to this issue and ultimately work toward getting it stopped. But before we go into all of that, for those that may not have heard the first interview, which was great, that we did with George and Dane and Dr. Doug, or who may not be familiar with your great work on this issue, tell us, if you would, how you became aware of what is called, among other things, climate or geoengineering.
Well, Alexis, first, thanks for having me back on the show. I really appreciate it, and I can't believe that it has been 5 months. It seems like it was yesterday.
Yeah, sure does.
But climate engineering is something that I stumbled across by accident while filming, actually testing some camera equipment. We were filming a time-lapse just to test the time-lapse rig, and we accidentally played the footage backwards, and we saw that the entire overcast sky, when played backwards at high speed, was being created by these jets flying in a grid pattern. Mm-hmm. I'm a mainstream, regular, not a conspiracy guy. I'm pretty well balanced, and we're in the edit suite, and then I have a news producer that works for me and my editor, and we're looking at this footage, and our jaws just dropped when we saw that all the cloud cover of the sky was a direct, obvious result of these airplanes flying in a grid pattern. And the test was actually over my home, mm-hmm. So that even got me more concerned because I know that I'm not in a grid pattern flight path here. Right. And after actually Amy, the news producer, did the research on it and came back very, very quickly with probably a 4-inch dossier on climate engineering and geoengineering. And she said, wow, you're really not going to like this. And that's basically how I came to be aware of it, was through time-lapse photography. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as anybody does any research or Googles climate engineering or geoengineering, you can see the mountain of data that exists online about this science. Climate science is a real thing. There's 100 bills before the House and Senate right now on weather modification and climate engineering.
Right.
They're always looking for, okay, here's the extreme weather, look at this crazy weather that's happening. But climate engineering is designed to create extreme weather. That's what it does.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, yeah, I'm thinking, and I'm sure many in our audience, listening audience, are already at least somewhat familiar with this anomaly that's been occurring, according to Dane Wigington, over 60 years. But as I said, the issue is becoming more, I would say, grave as far as the recipients of the spraying is concerned. And I think the measures by which they're using to do this spraying has also increased. So there is a lot of data out there. But let me ask you, as you're going through your research, it said that there are patents that are available for the public to see, not necessarily do they want the public to see it? I don't know. But are these some of these things available? Literally, patents on the technology that they're using.
Yeah, there's a tremendous number of patents. Hughes Aircraft has a patent on it. Wells box seating for reduction of global warming is another patent. I mean, they're available. There's a lot of information. It's not. I don't believe it's quite a big secret, but I do think it's not in anyone's interest to actually broadcast that these programs are taking place, or that they even exist, or that the science even exists. But with just a little bit of research, you can see, like on the NOAA website, if you search geoengineering on the NOAA website, you'll see the unregulated science of geoengineering and climate engineering is right. They have a whole discussion document, front page.
Isn't that something?
These documents are there. They're not designed to be hidden. There's bills before Congress. If you watch the film, look up, you'll see we've got, I don't know, probably 100 documents excerpt and featured in the movie. It's also on the SkyderAlert.com website, and I think Dane has a whole link on geoengineeringwatch.org that just brings you to all of the government documents. So, I mean, they are absolutely available, including the Air Force has a document that's called Owning the Weather in 2025.
That's right. I'm familiar with that. Yeah. Okay. I find that whole thing a bit perplexing as well, George. The fact that, they say that the truth is hidden in plain sight, and I suppose those that follow that motto have been doing it to a T for a long time. And yet, I have watched some other films that address climate engineering, geoengineering issue, and in one of them, I believe it was Michael Murphy, What in the World or Who in the World is Spring, right?
Yes.
Where he took some footage of his time on the Hill, on Capitol Hill, kind of doing a sort of man on the street or man in in Congress interviews to get the take from our legislators on the Hill as to what was going on, and they all seemed oblivious to the fact that anything like this is happening. So you've got this denial in your face and the information in your face at the same time. What gives here?
Well, maybe a couple of years ago when he was making that film, I would believe that the legislators don't really know about it, but now we are getting tremendous feedback from legislators by using the Skyder Alert app. We just had a sellout meeting in Redding, California that Dane spearheaded, and it was with the EPA, and I can send you a link to that. But it was over 400 people showed up. The mainstream news covered it.
Really?
And it's a huge deal. And there's a 45-minute video clip. I could send you a link to that as well.
Wow, please
of
do.
The actual event.
Yeah.
And we had a similar one in Arizona. I want to say beginning of June. Same thing with the legislator there. We've got 2 U.S. senators replied back requesting meetings. We've had meetings with the lieutenant governor in California. So the awareness overall is what's driving the politicians and the policymakers to pay attention to
respond. Yeah.
To respond, and also to be aware of it, because I actually do believe, I'm not an anti-government guy, I do believe that 2 or 3 years ago, most legislators did not know of the phrase climate engineering or geoengineering. Today, I don't feel that way. Today, I believe that message has become clear, and they are all aware of it as these weather modification and climate mitigation bills come before them.
That's interesting. And yet there seems to be such an inconsistency. I mean, I'm not trying to poke a hole in their authenticity or lack thereof, but again, if this is a technology that has been going on, of course, not to the extent that it is now, but in essence for 60 years, how is it that even some of them were not aware, whatever euphemism they used for it, whatever terminology they used? So anyway, I don't want to stay too much on that, but here, the good news, I'm glad...
Well, no, let me give you my thoughts on that, because I question that, and in my research I was wondering the same thing. The way I see it is that it hasn't been, because it's a solution or a proposed solution, you can put the solution in quotes, I don't think the climate engineering has been something that's been on the forefront or the top of mind of legislators, where if you say, oh, extreme weather or climate mitigation, they think, oh, sure, we should do something about the hurricanes. What could we do about hurricanes? You can prepare, you could do X, Y, and Z. But it hasn't really been until recently, with what appears to be tremendous amounts of experimentation, that now, okay, one of the things that we can do to offset carbon emissions or to offset hurricanes or to offset extreme weather is to create climate engineering, implement climate engineering. I think up until very recently, it's been in the development or experimentation stages where it hasn't been top of mind from a phrase of climate engineering or geoengineering to the legislators. That's my personal feeling.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I think that's fair enough. And look, at the end of the day, I think what we need to do is, let's assume that once they are fully aware that they indeed will serve the constituents as they should by addressing this issue. And it sounds like we're making some inroads there, so that's a good thing. Wow. Yep. Since February, George, since we last talked, it sounds like there is a bit of a groundswell going on here. So needless to say, I think things like your app, which we're going to get into excruciating detail about, are working. That is fantastic. But, listen, you and I talked for quite a while offline before we started our official chat, and we're recording this. It'll be about 2 weeks prior. Well, the recording will air about 2 weeks after this date, but I wanted, for the record, today's date is July 28th of 2014. We here in the Boston area have had some extreme weather consistently, like many other parts of the country, but we have been getting slammed with heavy monsoon-style rains. This morning was one of those days, and it ended up with a tornado touchdown pretty much in the Boston metro area. Now, you and I had a conversation. I told you about this. You quickly looked up. I want you to tell the folks what you did, and you showed me an image, a very disturbing image of data that you were getting right around this time, maybe a little prior to, that showed that there were a multitude of lines in the sky. So, a very, very aggressive spraying campaign prior to this. Talk about that a little bit.
Okay. Well, and that brings up another example that I want to show you, a similar experience that I had last year, and that is the Skyder Alert website and mobile app. Basically, first I got to explain the way it works so you can understand what I'm going to say. Skyder Alert is a mobile app that you can use from your iPhone or Android device. And when you see those long white streaks in the sky that don't dissipate, you take a picture of it. And based on your geolocation, it will send that along with a petition to the elected legislators or officials in that particular area. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, it also puts a pin on the map on the SkyderAlert.com website. So if you click on the map link, you can see where all the submissions are coming in from around the world. And what we're seeing is a patterning of submissions and extreme weather. Now, I'll send you a couple other photos that I have that are just bizarre. And I noticed this last year. I was checking to make sure the map link was working on the website. Mm-hmm. Clicked on it. Okay, whatever. I saw it. And I saw it was a really bizarre pattern along the East Coast where I was at the time. And that's fine. The next thing I was doing, I was shooting the next day, so I went to check the weather. And I saw the weather map was almost identical in prediction for what I had seen the app users submit. Mm-hmm. And I said, wow, that's really coincidental. And then it happened again and again and again. And now if you look, I don't know how you'll handle posting it, but the photo I showed you showed a tremendous amount of persistent contrail spraying activity in the sky surrounding the areas where there were unseasonable tornadoes in the Boston, Connecticut area.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And
this is the pattern that just appears over and over and over. And even the White House has come out with a concept. They want to implement a climate map where they're mapping extreme weather patterns. And I have to tell you, I'm predicting it's going to be very similar to the Skyder Alert model.
Mm-hmm. Well, what are they trying to do? What's their purpose in doing this? The White House.
Their purpose in doing that is they want to set up a map for climate change or sea level rise or at-risk cities or something like that, where they can track. Obama just did a big, I think it was July 10th or 12th, a big press release on this climate map that they want to do, an interactive climate map.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we'll see.
We'll see. But the pattern between the geoengineering evidence in the sky and the extreme weather, especially unseasonably extreme weather, is uncanny, the coincidence.
Right. So I think it's fair to say we can go beyond coincidence and really kind of get to the root of what's happening here.
Well, especially if you read the government documents and the science behind what climate engineering is designed to do, you'll see that it is actually functioning in accordance with what it's designed to do. So it's not like a big surprise. They have excessive spray activities in one area, and then the climate changes aggressively in that area over the next day or two or three. That's what it's designed to do.
To what end? To what end? Why? What are they trying to change?
Well, unfortunately, the biggest challenge that I see, or the biggest problem that everybody faces, is because it is an unregulated science, who wants to change and when? You don't know. Mm-hmm. It could be anybody at any time for any reason, benevolent or otherwise. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because it is unregulated, how can anyone even begin to guess where it would stop or what it's designed to do?
Exactly. Okay.
Maybe your company wants it to rain and my company doesn't want it to rain. Well, two juxtaposed positions, both with the same ability to implement with aerosol spraying. Who wins? Who knows? Mm-hmm. It has to stop.
It just has to stop. Yeah.
And it has to come, I believe the only way it will stop will be through increased awareness. And one of the ways that we've really driven awareness is through these film festivals. And I just got a call yesterday on Sunday with the film festival director of the Moon Dance Festival in Boulder, Colorado. Mm-hmm. And it's an environmentally focused initiative film festival. I think this is its 15th year. And we're going to be one of the top films there. We'll be screening it and probably do a panel discussion and Q&A. Mm-hmm. And it's in Boulder, Colorado in September on the 25th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. September 26th, 27th, and 28th.
Okay. That's great.
But festivals like this, and like at the Conscious Life Expo, I mean, we get thousands of people to see the movie. And
captive audience.
And they talk about it, and they're concerned people. They're people that are actually interested in their health and what can they do to make a difference in the world. Mm-hmm. What can they do to make it a better place? Mm-hmm. What can they do for their own health and safety?
Right.
Go to these festivals, watch the shows, and talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely talk about it. Well, listen, as far as your amazing documentary called Look Up is concerned, George, I think the proof is in the pudding in all of the accolades that you have picked up, not for ego reasons, I know, but for the right reason. This is really, again, proof pudding that people they're watching it, they're being affected by it, and the larger community is certainly seeing the need for it. I want to just spew off a few of the accolades that you've received. The International Film Festival for Peace accolade competition, Best Use of Film for Social Change, Best Creativity and Originality for Original App. So some of these are for your app as well. Action on Film Festival awarded Look Up Best Documentary Short. It goes on and on. So to me, this is indicative of we're making an impact. You're making an impact. Dane is making an impact. People are starting to care. So that's the good news. There's a silver lining to this toxic cloud, pun intended. A real silver lining, a good one. Speaking of that, I know we're kind of bouncing all over the place, but boy, is this a loaded issue, and I'm sure we're going to go off on a lot of different sort of sub discussions about the bigger issue. But let me tell you what happened. As I don't know if we said this on air or not, but I was in New Jersey recently, in your neck of the woods, in Teaneck, New Jersey, and looking up, as I have made it a habit to do, and noticing a very, very ominous sky with grid patterns clearly evident. But on our way, George, we had driven down from the Boston area. We were right about at Danbury, and I saw, for the first time with my own eyes, something that you featured in your film, what I think I described to you when we met as a void, sort of a line in a cloud.
Yeah.
Showed
come on.
Come on. I mean, come on. And I said, honey, my husband was in the car, and I said, I need you to look at this. I was actually driving, so I couldn't take a picture, but he looked at it and he said, oh my God, this is insane. And it just got increasingly worse as we got over to the New York border and into New Jersey. It seems like this stuff is happening. It's definitely more aggressive in some areas than others. So we've kind of bounced around. I kind of put a bunch of stuff in there, but let's talk about that void in the sky. What's going on with that?
If let's say you were 22 and I was like 17 or 18, I could say, wow, yeah, hey, well, that's really strange, and you'd be like, yeah, okay, cool, but we're not. And I am a professional photographer. 25 years I'm doing it. I'm outside. I shoot the sky and the clouds all the time. Mm-hmm. This is new. This is a new phenomenon. I've only seen the last maybe 2 years. It's brand new. I mean, the entire atmosphere and environment and I guess you could call it the makeup of the atmosphere doesn't change in 2 years like that. Mm-hmm. They're just not real clouds. They're just artificial clouds, period.
Yeah, there's no question. No question about it. You have been very, very, what do I want to say? Obviously inquisitive, but very aware of these subtle and not so subtle variations in things that, I think you had talked about when you were flying into LA, or maybe back, I can't remember, where you noticed the temperature fluctuation where it should have been colder as you got higher. It did not change, or it was drastically.
It actually went the wrong way.
It went the wrong way. Talk about that.
It was, I fly more than most people. I'm a platinum elite flyer, so I fly usually several times a week. And and I watch the temperature gauge and I watch the little info screen. And over the last couple of years now, what I'm seeing is the temperature is actually increasing as the plane ascends. Mm-hmm. I mean, not once you're up to 30,000 feet, but from takeoff to 6, 8, 10,000 feet, I've actually seen the temperature increase. So there's something going on where they're pushing cold air to the ground, yet the next level of the atmosphere is actually warmer.
Mm-hmm. Are you noticing this? I mean, do you make it a point to gauge it for most of your flights, and are you experiencing this on a regular basis, or?
Yeah, it happens a lot. It happens a lot. Okay. A lot of the planes don't have those gauges. Uh-huh. Or like the display on the LED on the back of the seat, right. But a lot of them do. And whenever you do, you can see that where 5 years ago it was 30 degrees when you're starting to climb, it's now 60 degrees. I mean, just tremendous temperature fluctuations from what should be normal.
So we're looking at this anomaly. We're looking at what I call the void in the cloud, which is probably one of the most pronounced evidence, not to mention the grid patterns in and of themselves. I've heard that there are people that can actually taste and smell these toxic particulates in the air. So you put it all together, we've got a litany of evidence that shows that there's something very, very unnatural going on.
Well, there's no mystery. I mean, it's in the documentation. If you really look at the government documentation, it's there.
Of course it's there. But again, I'm reiterating this, George, because in my travels, as I'm talking to people, again, I'm getting still many that are saying, I've never noticed it. If they do, oh, it's nothing. And or if they have acknowledged it, I can't do anything about it. So it's worth reiterating. Let's say it again. The information is there. The information is there, people. The information is there for the third time. Please look it up. And I say to people, take the time to turn off your TV. And our audience is very astute. I don't have to preach here because they know what to do. They're thank goodness, make it their business to become aware of these sorts of things. But for those who aren't, please take a moment out of your entertainment TV schedule and look at what's really going on here. Watch, look up. Let's talk about Look Up for a minute. Have you done another version of Look Up? I know that you were...
I have.
Tell us about that.
Wow. Since the Conscious Expo Award, we actually won a bunch of other awards, which I should have sent you a list, an updated list of it. And just getting back to the awards thing, it's funny because I've been a filmmaker and a producer for a long, long time. Like I said, 25 years I'm doing this now. Mm-hmm. And I've done massive, massive campaigns, huge global campaigns, and nothing has had a flurry of awards or accomplishments like this campaign, like this Look Up and Skyler Alert. Mm-hmm. So that you're right, that is just evidence of people saying this is a serious issue, we need to take it seriously, and recognize that, hey, something's going on and people need to know.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. All 7 billion people need to know. I don't know if that's
everybody needs to know and talk about it and understand, what are the risks related, because that's another thing. If you boil it down, some people might say, oh, yes, well, let's prevent the hurricane. Okay. Well, there's something called the HAMP report. It's a Hurricane Aerosol Microphysics Program. And that's another government document that was, given to me by our news producer. And I read it, and it gives you the flight patterns and the methods to spray within the clouds and the weather fronts to diminish the intensity of a hurricane. Mm-hmm. And it's in the document. It says how to do it. But one thing that people don't realize, it's like, okay, well, are you concerned about diminishing the impact of a hurricane, or are you concerned about dumping toxic poison on your children and in your water supply?
Absolutely.
Well, they're two different issues.
They're two different issues, absolutely. Well, what about, today we're talking about not diminishing the likelihood or diminishing the hurricane or tornado, but creating one. So you're getting a double hit here. There are people whose homes are destroyed. Thank goodness it doesn't seem like there have been any fatalities or any serious injuries, but clearly there have been many weather events where there have been. So you're getting your life is at risk there, not to mention that may have been caused by that toxic spraying, which your life is at risk there. So, is it doing, even if they, George, were to come out full throttle and say, okay, we have been doing this, and it's for the good of our planet and the good of us, and we want to diminish the extreme weather, I think that it's actually doing just the opposite. It's creating the weather, not diminishing the severity. So, come on.
That's what it looks like to me.
That's what it looks like to me, too. That's what it looks like to me too. So
I mean, I just sent you. You have to see the emails I just sent you of the predictive effect of the submissions and the weather forecast for this tornado map and also a high intensity heat map. Yeah. When you see these two coincidences, you'll look at it and you'll be stunned. Yeah. You'll be angry.
We're going
to. When I saw this, I actually got angry, and I'm not the kind of guy that really gets angry.
Well, that's what we were saying. Angry. Yeah, you and I were talking offline, and I don't. Anger is not a space or a place that I want to be in, and I try to avoid it at all costs. But we're human, and when you see these correlations that are in your face, and you're worried about, the threat of a tornado and your home being destroyed, and what may be behind it, how can you not be? How can you not be? Listen, I want to spend the balance of our time because this is good. This is a really good setup for those that whoever on this planet may not be aware of this critical issue. Hopefully this will give you enough of a, shall we say, teaser to look further. But I want to spend the balance of the time talking about action steps. That's what we're calling this show. we've talked about it, we've touched on it. There are these great film festivals that are going on, and people that are being inspired to do things, you know, that are in their power to do. You know, we've talked about the meetings that are taking place with legislators, and finally they're, you know, putting some attention on it themselves. I want to talk about this, what seems to be kind of a grassroots campaign by concerned citizens who are pooling their monetary resources together to put up billboards. I think.
Oh, you saw that?
I sure did, and I've heard about it several times. Tell us about that.
Wow. You know, all I can say is I'm a little overwhelmed by how much positive response and support that I've gotten just from concerned citizens. It's really incredible.
It is.
People are just donating money. They're donating money to billboard causes. People are putting up billboards themselves all around the country. We've got like 20 billboards running now.
That's right. In Canada as well.
And in Canada, that's right. And people are they're going on the site and saying, oh, yeah, here's $500 to your billboard campaign. We're like $700 away from the next billboard campaign that we're going to do in California.
Fantastic.
It's fabulous. So what's happening is people are really stepping up, and one of the best ways to increase awareness is to broadcast it, is to put up signs that say, hey, this is climate engineering. Get informed. Go to skyderalert.com or geoengineeringwatch.org. Get informed. Get the information as to what it's about.
Okay.
And another action step is now in the app. I have a new version of the app that's out where you can watch the film within the app.
Oh, wow. I love that. I love that. Tell people again, this is a big part of this discussion, because Skyder Alert is an action step, everyone. Everyone needs to get this. It's short change and a big return. Talk about it end to end again. You can now watch
Skyder Alert. Well, the first thing is, as a highly experienced producer and filmmaker, I wanted to make a documentary that educated people. So that's what kind of birthed the idea of Look Up the movie. But then, what to do after you learn about the issue, what can someone do? And that's where documentaries, up until this movie, have fallen flat. They can educate the population about a particular topic. Okay, that's great that you know about it, but now what do you do about it?
That's right, yeah.
And I think that's why Look Up has won so many awards, is because judges are looking at this and saying, wow, this is a really innovative way to, A, get a message out, but B, then have the general public give them a tool to do something about it. And I believe that is really what's been standing out, because now people can get the app and they can see this taking place in the sky, and they can do something. One click, they take a picture of it, it goes to the legislators, it gets a confirmation back to their email that they can share and post with their friends on their social networks, and now you can watch the film Look Up from within the app. I think it's like $4.99 or something like that. That's as great. An in-app purchase, so you can actually get the movie on your iPhone or your Android.
That's great. That's great. I want you to talk a little bit about when people are taking these pictures. I know that you have a built-in, so they don't have to know who their legislators are. It's built-in, so it will automatically, based on your geo position, go to the appropriate legislator. You had said initially, George, that that the legislators were getting this information via email, but now isn't it via their Twitter feed?
Yes.
Okay.
Again, that's another thing that's completely innovative, never before done. I was able to patent that technology.
Kudos. Wow.
Yes, thank you. For regular citizens to have direct communication to their legislators without having to research who they are or where they are.
Okay.
Because up until this app, another breakthrough thing is there has just been no way. I mean, do you know who your representatives are?
I sure do. I actually know them personally, but that's
wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, no.
But let me ask you a question. When you were in TNEC, did you know who they were?
Some of them, my husband. We're very politically active, but let's leave that offline for now. We can talk about that offline. I'm not the person to ask on that one. I know the governor very well, actually. So,
wow.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. The average person does not. They should, but you've just made it a heck of a lot easier for them to find and should know. And this is an impetus to engage. You are the constituent. They are supposedly there to serve you. Make them do that. Make them do that by starting with a very substantive discussion about a very dangerous, critical issue. But again, I wanted to talk about when they're getting let's say I am using the app and I'm seeing a sky of grid patterns or even just a couple of very distinct lines. I take the picture, I send it through the app, and it goes to the appropriate legislator. That's built in. But does it show up on the legislator's Twitter feed versus...
It does.
Okay.
It shows on their Twitter feed.
That's what I wanted to talk about. Yeah. Because I think a lot of people feel, George, that, oh, yeah, what am I going to do? They're going to get the picture. It's going to go into a black hole, and I may get a call from an aide, and nothing will happen, or I may not. But you had made a very important point that they may or may not, the legislator may or may not see their email, but they are watching their Twitter feed. So I want people to not be discouraged by that. You have made it even easier for the legislators to see. That's huge.
That's right.
That's a really big thing.
And, the thing about the email is, in today's communication madness, a lot of legislators just don't have the capacity to check their emails. I mean, I barely have the capacity to check my own.
Yeah.
But I tell you, everybody looks at their Twitter feed.
They sure do. They sure do.
And it's also very easy for people to share and retweet. So while one legislator might get, 2 or 5 or 8 submissions from me, well, they're also getting 1 or 2 or 3 from you and 1 or 2 or 3 from the neighbor. And, those numbers are cumulative. They're mounting.
Right.
So part of the automatic populating of the message is ban geoengineering. Now, they're seeing this, 50 times a day. At some point, they're going to need to address it. I mean, since we've been talking, I've got, I don't know, maybe 30 tweets since we've been talking, and it's I do not consent, ban geoengineering.
Yeah.
Eventually, there's some number that they will pay attention to, and they already are starting to pay attention. So thank you to everyone for participating, because it is making a difference. But you do need to have Twitter installed on your phone for the Skyder Alert app to work.
Okay. Well, for those that are loath to use Twitter, here's a good reason. Here's a substantial, substantive, not just, oh, here I am at a restaurant right now eating dinner. You can do something really good with Twitter. Social media, we can't, nothing to sneeze at. It can be used for wonderful things. So that's a great thing. Will there be another iteration of Skyder Alert, you think? What are you thinking about? Are we good where we are right now?
Well, I think the app itself, the latest thing has been integrating the video content, which has also been kind of breakthrough to have video content actually built within the app. So that's an entirely new concept. I think you're going to see that coming out more and more. But we were blazing that trail. So that's been the biggest development of it.
I think that's great.
And the other thing, like on the social media side with Twitter, that's the only thing I use Twitter for. Is that?
Sure. Well, your time is taken up with that. I just had another thought, just a little thought. I'm thinking, we're an action step segment here. Gift this app, people. Don't just get it for yourself. If you perhaps made a commitment to gift it to a couple of people. I know that in the iTunes, the Apple's App Store, iTunes Store, you now have the ability to gift any app really to somebody. So I can't think of a better way of showing someone you care by gifting them. And here's the other thing. A lot of people I think are concerned, George, with how do I even, now that I know, how do I explain it to my friend, my mom, my husband? How do I explain it to a colleague? Well,
the easiest way in 2 minutes and 20 seconds in the app, watch the trailer.
That's exactly.
You play the trailer in the app. For anybody, they're going to look at it and immediately understand the issue.
That's exactly why I'm bringing it up. You're right. So really, we're on the same page. So gift someone an app and say, like Foster Gamble, I think once said, watch Thrive, and then maybe we can have a conversation. This is what he suggests people do. So, gift it to somebody, have them experience Skyder Alert, and then maybe we can chat afterward. That's kind of an approach we could take. Gift it to
Exactly.
2 or 3 people. I think that's great. So we've got Bill.
And there's something I wanted to bring up on the app too, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. A lot of people, when I first launched it, at that time, there was a lot of limitations from Apple with nonprofits. So we had to put it out as a paid app, and we launched it as a paid app, and it went to the top of the charts. It hit top 10 on Twitter and top 5 on iTunes.
Wow.
Tremendous success. And then, we got a lot of feedback saying, oh, wow, you should make the app for free for more usability and more people will get it. And we did. We launched version 2 for free, and it fell off the charts like a lead weight.
Wow.
Right to the bottom. User and membership went almost to 0. So we relaunched version 3 with all the upgrades and implementations that we have with the film as back to $2.99. And, we're now climbing back up the charts, so it's just important to say that Skyder is a nonprofit 501c company. So it is a nonprofit. But just from a human nature standpoint, we found that the releasing of the free app, maybe people didn't take it serious or they just thought it was a game. But it is important to have some price point attached to it for people to take it serious and use it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a model that we all, my many years in marketing kind of learned, and in media, learned that, if you give something away, people won't take it seriously. It's kind of an interesting, kind of counterintuitive approach. But I think that's the way people are, because we say you get what you pay for. Well, pay for something, a tiny, change for something big. Well, let me ask you, you're so busy, George. Wow. Is this your primary focus right now, running this 501? Is it a 501c4 or C3?
It's a C4,
C4.
And then Sky Analysis, the education component, is a C3, but Skyder Alert is a C4.
So is this your full-time gig now, or are you still doing...
No. My basic focus last year was to create this tool. Because that's what I'm really good at doing. And right now, it is not really, there's nothing much more for me to do. It's just about everyone else's action to use this tool and to get the message out. So it's taking less of my time than from the first day that I discovered it.
Yeah, well, you were the architect.
Because that is my specialty, and now I'm like, okay, now it's up to everybody else.
That's right. Well, that's why we're here for you, dude.
Well, thank you.
We want to, and here for each other, and I want to stress that, really. Let me ask you, what have you learned about geoengineering most recently that you didn't know when you first began this project? Put you on the spot, sorry.
Yeah, no, I guess what I've learned is how aggressive it is becoming, and how bigger and how frequent it's happening now. Because now I see when we're filming, we almost never have a blue horizon in our shots.
Yeah, I know that's what
it's happening all the time.
All the time.
And that just does not cease to amaze me. Now I'm seeing it happening at night.
Me too. Absolutely.
So if you want to spray to prevent, solar radiation and reflect sunlight, why are you spraying it at night?
You're absolutely right. As a matter of fact, I recall I had just been returning from Montreal. As a matter of fact, I was doing an interview with a colleague of mine, Lilou Massé. We had met up in Montreal and drove. And I remember it was a full moon, so that the sky was lit more than normal. Normal, not a full moon, waning moon. And I noticed, lines in the sky as I'm driving. We were probably coming through Vermont at the time, and I thought, my gosh, that's the first time I've seen that. What gives there? That's a very good point. What are you blocking? Are you trying to block the moon? The emissions from the moon?
Exactly.
So, yeah. And
so that's one thing. The other thing that's bizarre is how it's affecting the snowfall.
Yeah.
Now, it was after we met in Los Angeles, we had a very strange, heavy snowfall in the Northeast. And we were getting reports from all over the place that the snow was blue, and also that it wasn't melting. And I thought that was really bizarre. And actually, I was in Florida at the time. I called Dr. Doug and I said, hey, I'm getting, hundreds of these emails from people that don't know each other saying that the snow's not melting. He's like, yeah, okay, whatever, I'll go outside and check it. And it changed his life.
Yeah. Because
he went outside, made a snowball, got a match or a lighter or whatever he had, and it just didn't melt. It was evaporating. And that is a byproduct of some of these ice nucleating components that are in the patents, that it doesn't let the snow melt, it makes it evaporate. And if you really think back, after we had that big snow, I came back to New Jersey, and there was no slush on the street.
Yeah.
It receded, but just wasn't. There was just no slush. So they're really manipulating the snowfall and the water on a large scale. I think that's what's been my latest observation.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I guess we're seeing the evidence of it really virtually in every aspect of nature. Dane Wigington being such an expert, really, and I think tree life, just environmental expert in general, has a keen eye on how the bark is being literally burned off the tree. Not necessarily burned off, but they're coming off the trees.
No, I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
But I saw it. It's being burned off the tree. I saw it. It's in the newest version of the movie. I'll send you a copy.
Yeah.
It is bizarre. When he was saying that, I mean, I'm a pretty reasonable guy. And I said, come on, the bark's being burned off the tree. And when I saw it, my heart just sank, because it is in fact being burned off the south side of the tree from the roots to the top on all the trees, period. Mm-hmm. Terrifying.
Well, we're supposed to be talking about the action steps, but I guess we've got to continue to pepper it with evidence in order to inspire people to take action steps. This is nothing to play around with, people. Let's all do something. What else can we do? I'm thinking, let's brainstorm together. We've got the Scatter Alert that's huge. Gift it to other people. Pool your resources and perhaps put a billboard up. How about community TV? Okay, so maybe the mainstream is not so anxious to cover this in earnest, but we do have other channels, if you will, literally. Community TV. How about that?
Community TV is a good idea. One of the things, though, is we are up for some major distribution, and I didn't want to lessen our possibility of having the widespread major network distribution by putting it on the TV. That's why I just wanted to keep it to DVDs and the app.
Well, I'm actually not talking about Look Up, but other people locally that can do, segments on community. Leveraging that medium is basically where I'm going in terms of an action step that the average person can take, or, and perhaps it's people in various vocations. Perhaps it's, I'm thinking scientists, that have taken an interest in the issue and want to talk about it from that perspective. Perhaps it's, artists even that are depicting what they're seeing in their artwork and talking about it from that perspective.
Absolutely.
Why can't we leverage that?
Absolutely, and even talking to the local news media when you see this super aggressive aerial activity. I mean, sometimes it's just insane what's happening. Just look up and pay attention to it and call the news. Is it going to happen if one person calls them? No. Is it going to happen if 50,000 people call them? Yeah, they're going to cover it.
Yeah. Wow. All right.
And I'll send you the link to the coverage. For example, in Reading 3 weeks ago at that last sellout session that they had with the EPA, you'll see the news covered it, because hundreds of people called them and said, "Look, you've got to cover this," and they did.
They did. Oh, thank goodness. Well, that's what we need. We need a groundswell, and it sounds like we're moving in the right direction, George. I'm happy to hear this update. Something was telling me it's time to talk to George again. I got to get an update here, and lo and behold, I'm going to have a link to the initial in-person, on-location interview that we did out in Los Angeles, so we can kind of see where we picked up and juxtapose, the activity that's happened, both the critical kind of grave activity in the spring, but also the the rally, if you will, of the people and how it's starting to shake things up. Speaking of rally, wasn't there a rally in New Jersey that you were involved in? I think there were two women that have been doing amazing work. I can't think of their names.
Oh, yeah. Elizabeth and the other girl there. Yeah, we went to that.
Tell us
a couple
what
hundred people showed up. We sold a couple hundred films there. It was fantastic. It was a live webcast. It was great. Hundreds of people showed up. I mean, we reached. I guess our total reach on that is probably in excess of 2,500 people.
That's great. That's great.
So that's the other thing that people can do is they can, in their town, and I'll put this out to anybody that wants to do it, you go to your community theater and ask them to put on a screening. And I'm happy to send you the movie for free. You can show it and invite people in your community to come to watch the film. And that's what these girls did in, I think they were in Brick, New Jersey, or Princeton, and they got a community center. It was a full donation, and they let us run the movie, and they reached out to all their friends and relatives, and that's how they could talk to 200 people, say, hey, this is what it's about, and people showed up.
So the next time somebody that is contemplating this craziness says, but what are you going to do? I hope we have shed a little bit of light on exactly what can be done. That's what it takes. Now, look, not everyone has, I know we all lead busy lives, and we all have other things on our schedule, but you know what? Is this not important enough to put a little bit of time and a little bit of elbow grease? We're talking about saving the planet and saving ourselves. Please, everyone, do it. George, I want to thank you. As always, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend. And we're going to stay in touch. I hope we get to see each other in the not too distant future. But
absolutely. Well, thank you, Alexis.
Yeah, I'm glad that I started to say the pleasure is mine. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, but I hasten to use the word pleasure with something like this. But I am honored to be able to use this as a conduit to give the people this great information that you have provided, important information. So again, thank you, and I will see you soon.
Excellent. Thank you, Alexis. And thanks to everybody else for participating and just doing the best they can to get the word out. And just look up.
Look up. Fabulous. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
As George so simply stated, something's going on and people need to know. With the methods mentioned in this discussion, we hope that you will feel inspired to spread awareness of this all-important issue, whether it be to your neighbor, coworker, or legislator. Let's work together to begin the process of putting a stop to this insidious assault to both the planet and to ourselves. I encourage you to visit SkyderAlert.com for more information about how you can play an active role in this all-important issue. As always, I thank you for listening to Conscious Inquiry, a special presentation of Conscious Life News.